Welcome to the GenTwenty podcast. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Marina.
And today we're going to be talking about how your late 20s are different from your early 20s.
Boy, are they.
Isn't that the truth? So I think that there's a huge difference between your late 20s and your early 20s. Now at 29, I'm about a month away from turning 30, and I feel that once I reached my late 20s, like 27 was a really heavy birthday for me, it felt like. I don't know, was it like that for you too?
28 was the heavy one for me.
Yeah, I feel like there just comes a time in your late 20s where you're like, there's like this fundamental shift kind of in who you are and like who you perceive yourself to be. So for me, I definitely have found myself to be a lot more confident, and I'm living like way more out of abundance instead of fear, which I think is hugely important.
Definitely. I completely relate to that. I turned 29 a month ago, and even though we're in a quarantine, it's actually been the best month that I've had in the last 5 years. So my 20s are so different, early versus late. I was a really anxious 22-year-old, really scared, really afraid of everything. And now I feel a lot calmer and more confident. I'm definitely aware that there are things to be afraid of out there, but I have faith in myself that I can get through it and come out better on the other side. So, for those of you who are listening and struggling in your early 20s, it gets better.
Yeah, it really does, I have to say, even. And there's also the point that we're still physically growing in our 20s. There used to be this idea that once you turn 18 or 21, you know, you're an adult and you have to do all of these quote unquote adult things. But like truthfully, we're not really ready for a lot of that, even physically and emotionally speaking. Like our brains are still developing. I was reading this article from Bustle the other day that was talking about how our our corpus callosum as a psychology major, this is very exciting to talk about 8 years after I graduated with my degree. But essentially, it's what connects your left and right hemispheres in your brain. And it's continuing to grow through your mid 20s, which is you're developing your senses still, and especially your emotional response to stimuli, which that's like our emotional intelligence is still developing. And our all the complex thinking that takes place in our prefrontal cortex is still it's still developing and growing, and from our language ability to our emotional intelligence and even controlling our impulses, all of those things are still improving and getting better at their jobs and what they're meant to be doing. It's also important to remember that as we're growing throughout our 20s, we're still developing mentally from our experiences and how we're reacting to those things and what's happening around us. So, yeah, I mean, despite all of these physical things that are changing with us, like the way that we are perceiving what's happening around us is so, so different. In our early 20s, we're kind of forced into this time where we're told we need to be more independent, yet we're often not given the skills to do so.
Yeah, I think of my 20s as like, when I turned 22, I was graduated and paying rent for the first time in a big city and living on my own and trying to navigate everything. And it was so hard. And I couldn't figure it out because I was like, all right, well, I'm 22 and I live alone, or not live alone, I live on my own. I'm an adult. Why is this so hard? And I realized now that I'm 29, back then I was learning to be an adult. Whereas
Hmm.
now I'm an adult. And it's a hugely different perspective because this whole like adulting concept that we joke about, like, oh, I'm adulting today, you literally have to learn how to do that.
Hmm. And the way you learn is by doing it,
Yeah,
and in
for
a lot of
several years.
cases, over and over again. Yeah. And I think that that's just a period of time that we have to go through because we're not born being able to be adults. But we also, I think, for so long through our adolescence, often rely on our parents to do things for us that even something as simple as making a phone call to make a doctor's appointment is overwhelming.
Oh, yeah. I put it off. Even making hair appointments, I would put it off and put it off. Or I would look for salons that would do electronic booking so I could do it online instead of over
Yeah.
the phone. And then if they called to confirm, I would just not answer the phone.
Yeah, I'd be like, "Please send me a text message and I will press C to confirm my appointment. Thank you."
Exactly. Yeah, and now I'm just like, "Okay, let me give you a call, like, that's easier, and I'll talk to you straight
Mhm.
quickly and not have all the back
Yeah,
and forth."
just straighten it out quickly and be done with it and move on, and it's strange how that used to seem so overwhelming, but it's really such a simple thing to do.
Yeah, and the only way to get there is to practice.
Yeah, and, one thing Marina and I have been talking about recently in our first episode is also boundaries and how important boundaries are, and a lot of us in our early 20s, I think we, 1, don't have boundaries. 2, if we think we have boundaries, we have no idea how to enforce them.
Mhm.
And they're oftentimes not boundaries that actually help us or help other people and serve any of us in any way.
Yeah, I feel like my early 20s, I was still testing the boundaries of the world, so I was not ready to put in place my own boundaries. I was just flailing about, and now,
Mhm.
again, I just turned 29, and in the last month have set so many boundaries that have helped me skyrocket into some, like, really great success and projects that I've finished faster than I've ever finished before because I learned how to set helpful boundaries.
Mhm. And again, it's a process that takes time to learn and time to figure out, and I think that's okay, to give yourself a lot of grace in those early to mid-20s because it's really a lot of those experiences that you're going to rely on as you get older. I think, like, for me in my early 20s, I wanted everything to happen right now. Like, when I had an idea, it's not that I wanted to jump from, like, start to finish, it's just that I wanted to work through it right now. There was no later for me, it was I needed to put things into action as soon as possible. But now that I'm older, I feel that I don't have to rush with everything. Everything has its time and its place, and it will come about as it's meant to. And I feel more okay with that now in my late 20s than I ever would have felt in my early 20s.
Oh yeah, I distinctly remember when I was 23 or 24, I was living in New York and I was a lot of my friends were we were in kind of different places, but some of my friends were traveling or living abroad to teach for a year, and I remember thinking I have to do everything I want to do before it's too late. And had this sense of urgency that I it's like, do it or you'll never do it. And that was a really kind of fear-based thinking where now I have still pretty similar plans of things I want to do in my life, but I know that I have time to do it. And I've in that I've also learned to be more patient with myself because I don't know about you, Nicole, but life has not gone as I've planned, and the harder I've tried to control and plan things, the more my plan or life has gone off track. And so I've kind of just accepted that I can't always control everything and I have to just be patient for things. Some things have to take time to unwind and some of the things I want to be doing, I'm not going to do them right away, and that's okay.
Mhm. Yeah. And it definitely is okay for that everything doesn't have to happen right now or even on the timeline that we think it needs to happen on. It's again, like everything has its own time and its own place, and I think also that one huge difference between my early 20s and now is that in my early 20s, I was still working through a lot of trauma and just things that have happened to me and things that I've experienced. And my worldview was a lot, I don't know if harsher is the term necessarily, but I was angrier
Hmm.
at different things than I am now in my late 20s. And now I just feel more comfortable just letting things go. Like very recently, I had this strange business happening where I had to send kind of a legal document. And I think that 3 years ago, it would have upset me so much, but now I feel that it was just something that I had to do, and, like, could I be angry about it? Yes, but that, like, holding on to that anger is not going to serve me in any way. It's just I'm taking care of the situation the best way that I can, and I'm just moving on from it because it doesn't matter if I sit here and am angry about it or am harboring angry feelings because the only person it's really hurting is me in the end.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I got to a point this year where I realized I'm tired of being angry. Like I'm just there's
Mhm.
too much else going on in the world to be so angry about the things I was angry about. And so I started thinking about things in the perspective of why am I caring so much what other people think about what I'm doing or about me. I just need to focus on, am I happy? Am I hurting myself? Am I hurting anyone else? If I'm good on all those three, nothing else matters. Like I learned to let go of a lot of fear too. And I think fear and anger
Mhm.
can kind of hug each other very closely because we get angry at the things that we don't understand often and we're afraid of the things we don't understand.
Mhm.
And kind of going back to what you said earlier about grace, I've learned how to just be gentler with myself and give myself a little grace and to give people around me a little grace. Like when I was in my early 20s and if someone did something to hurt my feelings, I would get so mad. Like, how dare they? Why are they doing this to me? And now it's kind of like, well, it sucks to feel this way, but I don't know what's going on in their life. They might have done something that hurt my feelings accidentally that
Mhm.
if I give them a little grace and understanding and realize like they're just trying to get through the day like I am, and I
Mhm.
feel a lot better. It's a lot easier to let that pain go.
Yeah, it's I think I've also had that like a similar shift where it's realizing things other people are doing generally have nothing to do with you,
Mhm.
and it's what other people do says, even if it is to you or about you or in relation to you, it just says far more about them than it does about you. Other people's actions do not define you, and I think that that's a huge lesson that I had to learn in my mid 20s going into my late 20s, and wasn't this thing that happened overnight. I think it's having a lot of these slow realizations and slowly implementing them in your life, and you're doing that from your early 20s whether you went to college or not. So you're graduating from college and all these relationships and having all these fundamental shifts in your life, and when you get to your late 20s, it's you become more self-focused in a positive way.
Definitely, definitely.
And you're kind of realizing that it's okay to be selfish, and you don't have to hurt other people in the process. Like, you can still be gentle with what other people's feelings and with your boundaries, but ultimately, I think focusing on your goals is not a bad thing, and that's something you realize in your 20s, I think.
Oh, definitely. And to that point, I would say it's not even about being selfish, but about learning to put yourself first to take care of yourself because like if you think about like Nicole, you're a mom. If you don't take care of yourself and keep yourself healthy and rested and well, it's going to be a lot harder for you to take care of your baby, right? So it's important to put
Mhm.
yourself first in certain ways so that you can continue to do more and do better. And the
Mhm.
same goes for non-moms. Like I'm just trying to live my best life and I realized another way to set a boundary is to put myself first so that I don't deplete myself doing all this other stuff for other people and leave myself behind.
Yeah, I think that is so important. I'm clapping for you
Thank you. Thank you. I'll take a bow.
because yeah, I think in our early 20s, we're often told that we need to put other people ahead of ourselves, and I think ultimately that is to our detriment because it really delays us from figuring out what it is that we want to do and want to pursue. In our first episode on burnout, we talked about how, and Marina said that even in her college career center, they told her to say yes to every opportunity
Hmm.
that comes her way, but ultimately, doing that is just delaying you from getting you to where you need to be. And I do believe that we all kind of follow the path that we need to go to end up where we need to be, but that doesn't mean we're not given bad advice along the way
Oh,
and
yeah.
derailed from where we need to be. I think that a lot of times saying yes to different opportunities is seen as a catalyst almost to getting you to where you need to be, but you need to really be saying yes to the opportunities that are positive for your self-growth and
Yeah.
not what other people think you should be doing.
Yeah, I remember I was listening to an interview about the woman who ran Cinnabon, and I wish I remember where I listened to it because we could link it. But basically, she started at a very bottom level in the company and said yes to a lot of opportunities that came her way, but not opportunities that wouldn't serve her in a in the future. So if someone,
Mhm.
I think one of the examples was she was a server or something, and the general manager was out sick, and so they asked her to step up, and she said yes, not just to be helpful to the team, but so she could learn how to do general management, and then she was able to then take on a more more responsibility and like lift herself up
Mhm.
instead of just being the like yes woman.
Yeah, so it was almost strategic in a way
Yes.
that she did that and she was keeping her ultimate goals in mind. And I think our early to mid 20s are just a time when we let other people derail us.
Mhm.
I think if I could go back and tell myself any piece of advice, it would to be to say yes to what I was most afraid of.
Yeah, that's great.
That's what's going to help you the most. And I truly believe that. Like I think for me, I was scared of investing in a business coach, but that's probably something that would have really been a catalyst for me instead of saying yes to all of this like low hanging fruit that really has taught me nothing except that I was bad at setting boundaries.
Yeah. And likewise, I would say to myself, who cares what everybody else is doing? What do you want to be doing? Because I spent so much time focusing on what I thought I should be doing to quote unquote succeed that I just fell harder. It just hurt more until I finally realized, oh, I want to be doing this specific thing. I'm just going to do that specific thing. And even now, I'm working on a novel, and some people might think, oh, Marina has so much time because she's not working full time, but that's not true. I have a very strict writing schedule, and I had a friend reach out to have coffee at like 8 a.m. And I was like, sorry, nope, I'm writing. I can talk to you on Saturday
Mhm.
because it's what I want to be doing. I can't wait anymore. This is the time for me to
Mhm.
be impatient.
Yeah, I can't wait anymore
I can't wait
and
anymore. I waited 29
yeah.
years.
Yeah, stop waiting. Stop. Even if you're in your mid-20s now when you're listening to this, say yes to what you're most scared of. Say
Hmm.
yes to what you want to do. Don't think anything about what other people think you should be doing because at the end of the day, it's you who needs to be happy with yourself and your life. And I think that's just one big difference between your early 20s to your late 20s. And would that be different if I had learned that lesson earlier? Maybe. I feel like I do know some people who have learned that lesson far earlier and who have seen fantastic success from it. And
Hmm.
I hope that from this episode that you walk away feeling more confident in yourself and more confident in saying yes to things that scare you and realizing that your path is going to take you to where you need to be, but you can spend less time derailing yourself to get you there faster.
Yes, amen to that. I have nothing else to add. I just agree so heartily. There's there's so much hope and so much goodness in the future. Okay, guys, so we're going to leave you with this. No matter where you are in your 20s, or even if you're not in your 20s, focus on you. What are you excited about? What do you want to be doing? And think about what makes you happy and what makes you feel aligned with those things, and then run towards them.
Perfect. Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to the Gen20 podcast. I'm Nicole,
And I'm Marina.
and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.